What's this?
This is an official certificate to prove that I am a survivor. Okay? Now all over Japan, almost 220,000 survivors have this certificate. But there are many others who cannot get this because the rules to get this is very strict. And especially the survivors were single, it was almost impossible for the survivors to marry non-survivors because of a severe discrimination.
What's the benefit of having this?
By having this, we don't have to pay a portion of medical expense. It's like compensation by Japanese government. Can I tell what happened to me?
Yes.
As you see, my birthday, 昭和21年, it means 1946, January 22nd. So my mother, 4 months pregnant with me, entered the Komachi town 1 kilometer from here, where our house used to be. But it was very dangerous, so we had already evacuated into the safe countryside where my mother's parents lived. But 3 days later, my mother wanted to know what happened to her house and entered there. And we were both exposed to the radiation. And I was very sick. It was called Enola Gay. Captain Tibet wrote his mother's name Enola Gay here to show respect for her. He looks very lucky, very happy to be a first pilot of the bomber which dropped the atom. And even now, more than half of the American people believe that the atomic bombing here in Nagasaki was necessary to make Japan surrender earlier. But it's not true. It's a test. Okay? But the two important information they eagerly wanted to get by dropping atomic bomb was this. What area the bomb explode, destroy. And the target city should be flat and very large. Hiroshima city was the best target. And the population of the target city should be large. Okay? So they wanted to make this data graph. This is the most important information they want to get by testing. Okay? This is the distance from the hypocenter.
So you think this was more done for
this
a test? As a test.
So they wanted the military superiority to the Soviet Union by having that most destructive weapon. And they also simulated bombing the main cities in the Soviet Union. For example, to destroy the Moscow, the 6 atomic bomb will be needed. And another distressing, unbelievable thing happened. 2 years after the end of war, American government established very notorious institutions called Atomic Bomb Casualty Commission here in Hiroshima, Nagasaki. And they were all run by US. They took the pictures of these ugly kilos, totally naked in this institution. And outside, they visited all the schools in Hiroshima. For example, Hiroshima Tenma Primary School. This picture taken all outside, not in the rooms. And when survivors died, they took out their internal organs from so many, and they were cut into pieces. And 28 years later, some of them returned to Hiroshima University. And information about deformed babies are not in the museum, not at all. Especially, for example, such thing happened in Iraq because of the depleted RAM shells American military invented before Gulf War. And the same thing happened in Hiroshima, Nagasaki. So at that time, midwives had to report what kind of deformed babies were born to that ABCC. And they got money by giving such a dead babies to that ABCC. Disgusting. And another, one of the reasons why Hiroshima was the best target was, it was said there were no American prisoners here. But actually, 12 of them were here. Okay? 12 American posts were here in this Chugok military police headquarters, very close from here. And the American military knew they were here.
Okay,
And
so
they
were killed
pretend,
by the bombing.
yeah, they were all killed. But no information about the death in the museum. Okay? And all of the visitors I guided eagerly wanted to know how long the dangerous radiation remained on the ground. But the information about residual radiation in the museum is very strange. This is in the museum. Everyone laughs to read.
Yeah, it says that the radiation faded really quickly after that.
Okay, it's not true.
It's not true.
Yeah? There are two kinds of residual radiation. One is called induced radiation. When hit by neutron, everything becomes radioactive. But as this you see, they disappear very, very soon. But the other most dangerous one is a fallout. Okay? Under the mushroom cloud, black rain fell and minute radioactive particles fell. So the people under this cloud inhaled the particles, and it caused internal exposure. And this internal exposure damaged the genes. And even now, this damaged gene causes quite new types of cancers called multiple cancers. But you cannot find two words for these two, internal exposure or multiple cancers, in the museum. It means Japanese government even now want to ignore or minimize the existence of internal exposure because of compensation. Every government is very stingy, so they don't want to like the increase in the number of survivors. Very political.
About the blast,
Blast?
what's this?
This is the detonation, no?
Yes, yeah. The bomber flew to Hiroshima from the east. And the target, we are now here, the target was that bridge. So they, this is very unique. So even from high up in the sky, they could easily catch sight of this.
Yeah, okay.
And so the bomber dropped not just above this 4 kilometers away and almost 10 kilometers up in the air. Okay? And it's very ironic that these 4 antennas on little boy was invented by Mr. Yagi, a Japanese scientist, before the starting war. These 4 antennas caught a reflected radio wave emitted by this. And these antennas could easily tell the height of this. And it exploded automatically
At a certain height?
600 meters above.
Okay.
And you should not miss this original equipment. The second plane dropped 3 equipments with parachutes to investigate changes in the heat and air pressure. Because of the wind from the sea, they all dropped at the back of the mountains. So you can see this one of them in the museum, not damaged because of a parachute. Something. You should not miss another very important building here. You can see that one. This one. This looks new, but
Yep.
it survived.
Oh, only
Very
one
old one.
wall, no? Or the entire building?
Very solid in structure. And you can see 6 big stones with lamps on both sides of bridge. Now you can see that part of the corner was damaged like this, original. Yeah? That area used to be a business downtown like this. And another thing you should know is this: Mr. Nomura happened to be in the basement of that building, and the basement was a good shelter. So he was safe in the basement, but after he got out of the basement, he was exposed to residual radiation, and he was very sick. But as you see, at that time he was 47 and died at the age of 84. Only one survivor who was closest to the hypocenter. Let me tell you what happened around here. We are now here. This area is now Pittsburgh. That area used to be a business downtown, and you can see many Japanese-style inns here, hotels. Okay? This is the computer graphics to show the original area. And something happened, tragedy. And many victims went into the river to escape from a fire, to cool themselves, to drink water, and such a tragic scene was found just 500 meters up in this river. All the river was covered with dead bodies.
Oof.
And it took us almost 1 month to cremate all the corpses because of the shortage of fires. So you can easily imagine that Hiroshima was very smelly,
Yeah,
because the rotten corpses and the smoke. Okay? And can you see this small mound over there?
Yep.
It's like a crypt. You can see even now so many 870 identified remains. No one claims here with their names. And in the big boxes, so many.
70,000.
Yeah. And we found 84 remains in a small island with the largest quarantine station. So many, 10,000 survived victims are sent for treatment, and so many died. So it was almost impossible to record when and how many remains were buried. So something happened, even now. And you can find, you should remember, we were under our feet. Even now there are original debris, because only one new building is that museum. So just we put a new layer.
On top of the debris.
Yeah.
So it wasn't cleaned at all.
Yeah. So even now you can find that roof tiles, the original. This side was hit by heat rays. And my friend found a fragment of the human bones last summer in Pittsburgh. And I recommend you to visit these places with, including the hypocenter. There are 2 temples over there. So that area used to be a large cemetery. As you see, yeah, before. So as you see, many of the tombstones remain standing because of the blast from above, not from the side. And you can see this one here.
Okay.
Even now, this is at on the right of the gray car in the white temple over there. Can you see? This is very important because in the museum you can see a shadow made by a man sitting on the stone steps. Now the original one was very black, but now almost faded away. But you can see the very black original shadow under this statue. Okay? And can you see this, one of this over there, on the right of the Black Temple? Huh? Even now there are 80 original tombstones like this in the cemetery. Yeah, very impressive place. I can take you there, and you should touch the rough surface of a stone which was hit by heat rays. What happened soon after the bomb exploded? First, strong radiation was emitted, and a big fireball, it's called a second sun, appeared just above this. And because of this fireball, the temperature around here was 3,000 to 4,000 degrees Celsius for 3 seconds. And these heat rays carbonized all the skin of the bodies. And soon after that, the supersonic blast, the speed of the much faster than the speed of the sound. Eh? And after all the air went away as a blast, no air around here, like a vacuum. Air pressure lowered almost zero. And in a minute, all the air which went away as a blast came back soon.
Okay, so when the bomb blasts in the center, there's no air, like a vacuum is created.
Yeah.
And how long does that, for how long? For a few seconds or fractions?
Not so long, maybe a few minutes.
A few minutes?
Seconds.
Few seconds, okay.
And so the blast destroyed all the wooden houses in this red area. It's now 4 kilometers in diameter. After that, all the wooden houses in this red area was burned down completely. And what happened to the bodies? Okay? Because of the heat rays, all carbonized, and because of vacuum, especially eyeballs, and sometimes stomachs were sucked and popped out. That happened within a radius of 500 meters from the hypocenter. これわかりますかね? Do you know, can you guess why the central part remains safe like that? No, the structure itself is very not so solid, rather fragile, only piled up bricks without any supporting iron bars. But only the dome was covered with very thin copper plate. No copper melts down below 1,000 degrees. And this is a stairwell, no floors at all. The blast hit straight down and broke all the large windows without giving any damage to the walls. So it remained like this.
So it was on top.
Yeah. This picture was taken from the position of explosion. Almost straight. What happened to the young students? First and second graders of elementary school students, and younger than them stayed there and they were all killed. And their seniors were sent to the countryside for evacuation. And they were all safe. But after they came back, maybe 5,000 of them became orphans. They lost their parents. And within that year, maybe at most 1,000 of them died, mainly because of hunger, and partly because of the typhoon. Yeah? The 42 days after the bombing, another tragedy happened in Hiroshima. Yeah? This is on September the 17th, one of the most powerful typhoon hit Hiroshima, and it killed 2,000 people around here. But it did a good thing. And so we can guess that the heavy rain washed the soil on the ground with radiation into the sea. After the typhoon, very little radiation was found But no one can tell what amount of radiation remained before that one, because the Japanese scientists were not allowed to measure the amount of radiation so often by the U.S. government. U.S. government even now say the atomic bombs are very clean, no radiation will remain at all. This strange one. So I know that the very encouraging information I can give you is, Japanese people are very hardworking. Look, 7 years later, no vacant areas at all. We are now here. But it was 4 years later that Japanese government established a very special law for helping the recovery of Hiroshima by giving extra budget. But we did soon after the bombing is incredible. 4 hours after the bombing, the first relief train with 200 victims left Hiroshima station for treatment. And next day, early in the morning, NHK began to broadcast local programs. And 2 days later, Japan Bank opened and started their service.
2 days later, after the...
2 days later.
Wow.
8 of the 18 workers were killed. But the other survivor made every effort to reopen this one.
So Japan is like a phoenix bird, no?
And in a very short area, small area,